As push was about to come to shove on the battlefield, Saddam Hussein turned to the country that supplied the bulk of his arms, the Soviet Union. Marshall Goldman of Harvard's Russian Research Center agrees that Saddam may, in a sense, have decided to surrender to Gorbachev.
If you can pick your jailer, you pick the right one. And I think the Soviets were making the point that, look, we're going to protect you to the extent that we can, and you're going to emerge, you're going to go down one way or another. And if you want to emerge with something, you'd better join up with us, because at least we can serve as your advocate to a limited extent.
Marlon Fitzwater tonight said that the president was thankful for Gorbachev's efforts. Do you really think they're that thankful at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue tonight?
I suspect they've got a lot of hard things to consider here, and all things being equal, I suspect they would just as soon prefer that Gorbachev hadn't intervened. But at the same time, Gorbachev is doing them a favor. It may mean saving some American lives, and it may also, of course, mean that George Bush is going to have to make some hard decisions. Am I going to go to a ground war because I don't like the fact that we have to wait 2 days for them to remove their troops after the ceasefire? But at the same time, again, I say this is, if they're an honest broker, fine. I think what they're worried about in the White House is maybe that the Soviet Union is not all that honest.
To what extent do you think Gorbachev's involvement in this is motivated by a desire to make the Soviet Union a player again in the Persian Gulf?
I think that's a very important consideration. They keep talking about the fact that the Soviet Union is not dead yet. It's not a minor player. Indeed, we are a superpower, they keep saying, and you can't ignore us. There's no question about that. But there are the other considerations. Every paper now in Central Asia, which is the Muslim part of the Soviet Union, is issuing condemnations of the Soviet Union's position in the war, saying they should not support what the United States is doing. They should take a firmer hand, that indeed that it's very important that they stop the slaughter that they see going on.
Goldman says a favorable resolution could enhance U.S.-Soviet relations, but warns that there's the risk of renewing some of the old Cold War tensions if the process fails.
And if this plan is accepted, what would it do to relations within the Middle East? Is it enough not only to end the hostilities, but to set up a new order in that region? For some thoughts on that, we turn to Farouk El-Baz of Boston University, a man very familiar with the politics in that region. Thanks for being with us tonight. What do you think? Is this the plan that should end the war? Is there enough in this plan for the Allies?
I don't really think there is enough in it yet. It is a beginning. Iraq has pronounced for the very first time the word withdrawal, and they have also stayed away from trying to link the situation in Kuwait to other situations in the rest of the Middle East, as in Lebanon and the West Bank and all of these other things. So there is a beginning, but I don't really think it is it yet.
Now, the Palestinians have been left completely out of this issue. What do you think they'll think of this?
Well, I really think that the Palestinian issue was not part of the original plan whatsoever, and I think President Saddam Hussein has brought it in as a smokescreen in the aftermath of the occupation of Kuwait. So he is now giving it up, and I think the Palestinians should also see that he had given it up very easily, the way he brought it in, and perhaps they really should take things into their own hands rather than waiting for somebody else to do the work for them.
So they may feel betrayed by him.
In some way, they really should, because he did not help the Palestinian cause whatsoever, and the attacks against Israel did not help the situation either. So in some ways, he did not, not just that he did not help them, but he actually may have hurt the Palestinian cause a bit.
If Saddam Hussein is left with approximately 2/3 of his military intact, what will that do to the balance of power in the region?
I don't really believe that the 2/3 of the military of Iraq is still standing. I think the number of troops are there, but the capability of Iraq to wage war on a neighboring country has been diminished a great deal. So at this stage, if Iraq pulls out of Kuwait, and if it agrees to all the sanctions of the UN Security Council, I think Iraq will stay put for a few years.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Farouk El-Baz of Boston University. Artie?